So, it's been a pretty wild couple weeks in Bleach, guys, to say the least. From our boy Kenpachi showing up out of nowhere with just his Shikai, by the way, and being an absolute menace, to our boy Ichigo appearing once again and showing these girls who the real MC is, sitting them down like, nah, hold my beer, it's my time to shine. Bleach has been great. There's a lot to go over, a lot to talk about, so let's just get into it and talk about our double header today. You heard me right. So we talk about Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, episode 7 and 8. Now our episode begins today with us seeing Asane and Yachiru not understanding what's going on at all as they're attacked by a Quincy. As this Quincy introduces himself as Stern Rider V, General Lee. And he immediately gets punched in the face by Yachiru again. And it's here, after narrowly avoiding getting socked in the face, he starts explaining how his powers work. And they're pretty fearsome, actually. As he says, I have 3 versions of my powers. My figure vanishes in the first version. The second version eliminates my very existence. And my third version lets me vanish from your consciousness. Just think how terrifying that ability is, by the way. Someone can just vanish from your mind and you couldn't even know about it. Like, they could be right in front of you and you couldn't even perceive them. Just imagine that. Terrifying. But it's here, funny enough, we see that every time he tries to materialize right here, go into their consciousness, Yachiru immediately attacks him out of instinct alone. She is Kenpachi's lieutenant, after all. She's pretty violent. And it's here, the moment she finds her sword, it's time to get a bit more serious. And it's here we see Lee actually try to stab her in the back, but her reaction time is too quick as she nails him across the face. And he thinks he dodges it, but it actually hits him. As Yachiru tells him that, my sword will hit you whether you dodge or not. You see, my sword is a sword that loves to imitate. There are copycats on the front and back of my sword. So the more you try to gauge the distance and timing, the more likely you are to misjudge it and get hit. And it's here she materializes her Zanpakuto Sanbo Kenshu. Something that's not very common, as Asane even says that's her Shikai, but her sword hasn't changed form. We'll come back to this soon enough. But it's here our fight suddenly ends as V gets a giant slash in his shoulder. As we see that someone's alive and kicking inside of Isane's barrier. As V says, why? I fought really well, didn't I? As the man says, yeah, you really did. For a product of my imagination, that is. As he continues and says, you know, V, your powers are amazing. I mean, you can erase your existence from sight, mind, and memory. But that's why you just disappeared from my memory. And it's here as V tries to attack him, he explodes right then and there. And it's here as he steps out of the barrier, Yachiru immediately tries to attack him. But he breaks her arm here like it's nothing. As he starts telling her, imagine this. What would happen if the bone in your arm was made of cookies? Just now you thought it would naturally break apart, right? Then you thought, if the bone in my arm was made of cookies, then maybe the rest of my bones are cookies too, as we see her legs crack here as well. And especially her hand here, bro. Good lord. As he tells her, the greatest power of all is the power of imagination. SpongeBob, baby. Because everything I imagine becomes reality. You want to talk about one of the most broken abilities ever. Anything you can imagine becomes reality. Do you know how absolutely insane that is? Dude, if he is against the wrong person, he will destroy them instantly. Because it's in this moment our walls come crashing down. And who should show up but our boy Kenpachi, looking fierce, ready for a fight. Yhwach knows everything's gonna be fine now that he's here. But it's here, we gotta get through a little bit of awkwardness, as Isane can't help but ask him, what happened to Captain Unohana? As he's just honest with her and says, she's dead. I killed her myself. If you hate me for it, you can go ahead and kill me. But instead of being mad, Isane respects Unohana's wishes because she knows that since she's dead, Kenpachi succeeded her. So everything's working out. And it's here our Quincy says, so you're Kenpachi Zaraki, huh? You're just as I imagined. And it's in this moment we see he makes a giant stage for their battle to be on. You can't fight Kenpachi and not be on a grand stage, after all. As he introduces himself as Stern Rider V, Gremmy, the Visionary. As he tells Kenpachi, I think you're lucky to be able to fight me, because I think I'm the strongest of the Stern Riders. As Kenpachi pulls up and says, oh yeah? Let's see about that, and slashes him. But we see that it does nothing. As Gremmy says, please, I simply imagined that my body was far stronger than steel. But upon hearing that, Kenpachi slices his arm off. As he tells him, if you're as hard as steel, you should have said so before. I would have just cut you as if I was cutting steel. As Kenpachi says, what's wrong? Did you imagine that I couldn't cut you? And it's here Kenpachi just has to sun him real quick as he says, let me tell you something. Your puny imagination can't create anything that I can't cut. You know why? Because I'm Kenpachi. The disrespect is wild, and I'm here for it, guys. As we get our dope episode transition. But it's here Kenpachi suddenly says, wait, you can heal your wounds? As Gremmy gets right back up, arm reattached as if nothing happened. As he says, I guess you're right. Even though all I did was imagine that my sword wound was already healed. Again, a terrifying power. If he was fighting against anyone else, he would be a huge problem. As he says, come at me, Kenpachi Zaraki. I won't use a single finger. I'll kill you using only what's inside my head. And it's here our fight begins. As we see Kenpachi try to attack him, but all of a sudden, the air he jumped into was already underwater. As the ground underneath gives way and Yhwach falls in, prompting Kenpachi to go after her as the ground closes up. And Gremmy really thought that was going to do something against Kenpachi, as this man busts out of the ground. As he says, it looks like Yhwach's bones are back to normal now. Were you so desperate to beat me that you couldn't use your mind on Yhwach anymore? As Kenpachi tells Yhwach, hey, go down and get your arm fixed. I need some space to fight here. And it's here Kenpachi asks Gremmy, what is it you want with me? You want to fight? Aren't you the strongest, Quincy? If you're the strongest, don't you want to crush the strongest? So come on, let's start the battle. And it's here as the fight continues. Gremmy essentially has an existential crisis as he says, what did he just say? If you're the strongest, don't you want to crush the strongest? I've never once thought of something like that. Nobody's ever tried to lay a finger on me. Because it's obvious that I'm the strongest. There's no need for me to prove it by killing somebody. I've never felt the desire to crush anyone. So then, why do I want to crush this guy so badly? Kenpachi's got a way of rubbing off on you guys. As Gremmy literally just starts pulling out the blicky and starts firing everywhere on Kenpachi. This man is a whole armory. But he's fighting the wrong person for that kind of stuff to work. But he doesn't care. He's finally getting into it. As Kenpachi says, looks like this thing is finally going to have some fun, referring to his sword. And it's here as their fight continues, it just keeps getting fiercer and fiercer. Both of them just landing blow after blow on each other. As we see, Gremmy's imagination is having a tough time keeping up with Kenpachi's speed. He can't imagine himself being healed before he gets cut again. As he says, why can't I stop his sword? Am I really going to lose to this guy? And it's here as he snaps back to reality, we realize that this was in his imagination as well. As Kenpachi tells him, did you just imagine yourself losing? Which he did. His technique is a double-edged sword, guys. He's only as strong as his mind is. As Gremmy's like, damn it, he's right. But that's all he needed to hear to snap out of it and put his game face back on as he tells Kenpachi, you'll regret this. Kenpachi tells him, I never did. And it's here we see that Gremmy actually makes a second copy of himself, as his ability even allows him to create life, as we saw with V earlier in our episode. As he tells Kenpachi and himself, neither of us can be cut. Neither of us can die. And the power of my imagination only doubles when I do this. As we see a giant meteor falling in the sky like it's Final Fantasy VII out here. As he says, I'll be the only one who survives among the rubble here. But our boy Kenpachi is so hyped up by this. As he says, a meteor? I've never cut one of those before. Isn't this exciting? Nozarashi. Kenpachi's so happy, he basically is having an orgasm right here as he leaps towards the meteor and says, drink, Nozarashi. And it's here, watching the whole thing, we see Yachiru have a flashback to her first meeting with Kenpachi. As she watches Kenpachi, with a smile on his face, effortlessly cut the meteorite in half. And when the smoke clears, we see for the first time Kenpachi's Shikai. And it's awesome looking. That's right, I said Shikai. That's all this is, guys, his Shikai. This man didn't even have a Shikai throughout the whole series. Just imagine what he's like now, bruh. As he tells Gremmy, there's nothing I can't cut. And it's here we see that Gremmy took this as a personal insult. As he says, if there's nothing you can't cut, then I'll kill you with something without form. As he sends Kenpachi to the vacuum of space. Even he could not survive this for long. But Gremmy forgot that Kenpachi is him as he claws his way out of space. As Gremmy uses that instance to turn his severed body parts into a bomb and explode on Kenpachi. As we see, this man just ate that attack. Even Gremmy says, you really are a monster. And it's here he starts to become a little desperate as he says, alright, if that's the case, I'll just have to imagine I'm stronger than you. As his overwhelming desire to beat Kenpachi is pushing him forward, even transforming his own body. As we see his own body start to fall apart. As Kenpachi tells him, "You turned me into a monster inside your own head. And that same monster is what killed you. You stupid fool." And it's here as he's falling to his death, we just hear, "Was I killed by my own imagination? No, that's not right." And as Kenpachi stands over his body, we just hear, "No, Kenpachi Zaraki. My imagination was correct. I was able to correctly imagine all of your powers. But the one thing I couldn't imagine correctly was that only your body can withstand your powers. You're him. It wasn't my power of imagination that lost to you. It was this body of mine." And it's here we see his brain actually shoot out of his body right here. As Gremmy tells him, "I told you, I would kill you without using a single finger. Because even this body of mine was all a product of my imagination. I didn't use a single finger against you, of all people. It's gonna be sad imagining what lies ahead in a world where I can no longer imagine anything." As he vanishes right then and there. As even Kenpachi gives him a moment of silence right here. A show of respect to an extent. And it's here we're going to transition straight into episode 8 as we hear Yhwach say, "I thank all of those who have died because I can see the world clearly again today. It's time to say goodbye to this abominable world." And it's here as we transition back to Kenpachi, the stage that Gremmy made for them breaking. He says, "The stage, your puddle of blood, all gone without a trace." As we see that even Kenpachi took a lot of damage from this fight. Gremmy was a tough opponent, after all. And it's here as Kenpachi's looking around for Yachiru, he notices her uniform on the ground with her not wearing it. And all I'll say right this second to you guys, because we will get into this soon, is I hope you said your goodbyes. And it's in this moment that Kenpachi is suddenly struck by a bolt of lightning. As we see Kenpachi gets jumped by the Quincy girls. As we meet Stern Rider G, Lil Toto Lampard, Stern Rider P, Menanas McCullen. And as we transition to a Soul Reaper actually cutting in to one of the girls, she just suddenly laughs and tells him, "When my blood splashes on you, you'll turn into corpses that only obey my commands." As we meet Stern Rider Z, Grisella Griwali, as she commands everyone to commit seppuku right here. Little side note, by the way, this girl, Stern Rider Z, has one of the craziest powers in this arc. You'll see soon enough why. And as everyone gets blasted away with lightning, we meet Stern Rider T, Candace Catnip. All four of them pulled up on Kenpachi right here. But they seem to forget who they're fighting as Kenpachi jumps up and tries to attack all of them. But even Kenpachi can't fight everybody as they slam him into the ground and bombard him with lightning attacks, laying him out. It's so wild to see Kenpachi of all people laid out, guys. It's kind of crazy. As Kenpachi thinks to himself, is this really the end of my life? And it's here as we transition to Rukia and Byakuya going around trying to help everyone. They notice Kenpachi's spiritual pressure is gone, almost. As Rukia wants to go help him, but Byakuya is telling her, no, you need to recover from your previous fight. But it's in this moment they both feel it. As we hear our new song start playing, which I don't prefer over the original, I'll keep it a buck. And we see someone falling through the sky, smash through the barrier, and land right there. Everyone feels it. As we see our boy Ichigo is finally here, and he flexes on these girls right here. As he asks, how'd you get beaten up so badly, Kenpachi? What's up with that? As he tells him, I never expected I'd say this to you of all people one day. But I'm here to save you. As we get our title card, baby. A hype-ass entrance. But we see that the girls didn't like this so much as they attack Ichigo. But our boy is on a totally different level now, as he makes light work of Candace. And casually sends the other 3 flying as well. They don't exactly like this, to say the least. As Lil Tato says, it's normal that we got defeated. Because this guy is the most dangerous member of the Special War Powers, Ichigo Kurosaki. And they all light up after hearing that. But no one more than Candace. As she says, I don't care about these things or who you are. I won't allow anyone to make me dirty. As for the first time in this entire arc, we see a Quincy actually take out a bow. Besides Uryu. And it's here you see, she thinks her 5 gigajoule blast of electricity did anything to our boy Ichigo. And to an extent, I guess it did, because it burned away all his layers of clothes and chose his fire-ass new fit. Thanks for that. And upon seeing that did nothing, they all pull out their bows. But it's here in this moment, across the battlefield, we see that Yhwach is ready to enact his plan, now that Ichigo is here. And as we transition back to Ichigo, he's just making light work of all 4 of them. It's wild. As they're just like, wow, he is really strong. It'd be great if he, just died. And it's here to make that happen. We see Candace get a bit serious. Because it's here as she charges at Ichigo all caked up. He's not threatened at all. And as she fires her electric javelin, Galvano javelin at Ichigo, he makes a little baby Getsuga Tensho and eats that for breakfast. As he casually sends her flying. Again, our boy is a different beast now. As the others say, man, even holy form can't get rid of him, huh? But that certainly doesn't stop them from trying, as all 3 of them power up right here into their Volstern ditches. As we see the death of God, the power of God, and the hunger of God on full display here. As we literally get like a magical girl kind of transformation. Kind of out of place, but I like it. It looks good. And it's here we immediately get into it as all 3 of them attack Ichigo with unique abilities, to say the least. As Ichigo just casually brushes everything aside. But they're all not going down without a fight, as they're all trying all these different ways to fight Ichigo, but it's just not working out. And it's here as Candace gets back on her feet. She tells Ichigo, don't get carried away. As she ends up powering up herself. But our boy Ichigo is still just staring at her like, that it? And she gets heated by it as she says, that expression of yours. Show it to me again if you make it through this. As she uses her electrocution attack against Ichigo. But it's here, Ichigo uses his new technique against her, the Getsuga Jujusho, and absolutely blows it away. As she tries to tank it, and even Ichigo tells her, get out of the way. But she doesn't listen here. And when the smoke clears, he completely blew her arm off. You would think he'd blow off more than that, but she got lucky. And she's naturally pretty pissed that her arm got cut off. As she tells Gigi to heal her but not with her blood, so she doesn't become a zombie. As she does heal her arm and regrows it. But it's here in this moment, all of a sudden, we see all 4 of them actually get attacked. And we see that it's by Baz B, of all people. As he tells them, credit is meant to be snatched. Snatching is a privilege for those who arrive late. And we see he's not the only one that thought this, as all the other Stern Ritters pull up here too. All of them looking to take out Ichigo. Even the girls end up being okay and get back up. And they all converge on Ichigo right here. Bro, if this isn't the sign of being the MC of your show, I don't know what is. When the whole enemy squad jumps you at once. But Ichigo's got bigger problems right now, because all of a sudden, we see this giant well of energy shoot up behind him. As we see Yhwach is ready to enact his plan. And it's here we see him tell Ichigo, I'm very grateful to you. You're the one who guided us towards the light. It's thanks to you I was able to attack the Soul King Palace. And it's here as we transition over to Kisuke and Mayuri, we see that the concentration of reishi in the Serite is decreasing right now. As we see that a hole has been punched in the soul shield membrane. As Mayuri says, it's because of the key. A door has been opened. And it's here he starts explaining that the death-conquering garb Ichigo Kurosaki's wearing is most likely the King Key, which is made of the Squad Zero's bones and hair. Also, it looks fire. Ichigo was able to pass through 72 barriers between the Soul King Palace and the Serite unscathed because of its resistance and defensive abilities. But that is where the problem lies, because it takes about 6,000 seconds to close a door that has been opened at the regeneration rate of the soul shield membrane. As Mayuri realizes that Bach's gonna use this to get to the Soul King Palace. He's gonna use Ichigo's own entrance to get to the palace. And that this was a part of his plan all along. As Mayuri says, what are the people from Squad Zero thinking right now? And it's here as Ichigo tries to go to that light. Everyone starts jumping him right here. That no matter how many times he tries to shake these guys, he can't stop all of them. And it's here, right before he gets caught slipping, we see Renji comes and saves him. As he tells Ichigo, go on ahead. I got these guys. I'll leave him to you. And it's here as we see the Quincy's try to chase after him. We see the rest of the Soul Reapers pull up to defend him right here. Shit's about to go down. And it's here as we transition to Ichigo chasing down Yhwach. We just hear, let me do it. As he gets an arrow fired at him from Uryu himself. And he is shocked. He didn't even know Uryu was here. As he tells him, go back, Ichigo. You can't stop His Majesty. Go back before you lose your life in vain. And as Ichigo presses him for answers, demands them, he won't give him any. As his response is to attack him again. And Ichigo doesn't do anything about this because he doesn't comprehend what's happening. So he actually ends up getting saved by Chad and Odahime, who have returned from Hueco Mundo. And they also can't believe that Uryu is here, of all places. And as he turns his back on them, Yhwach asks him, did you say your goodbye? This is a forever farewell, after all. As Uryu tells him, I understand. And it's here as they leave, we see that Ichigo's heartbroken, that his friend would betray them like this, in this way. And as they end up escaping the Serite, our episode ends. And it was a pretty crazy couple episodes, guys. I gotta be honest. First off, Gremmy is ridiculous. His ability is legitimately broken. Just whatever you can imagine becomes reality is just freaking absurd. If he was fighting anyone else but Kenpachi, it would have been a wrap. It literally would have been a wrap. And Kenpachi, bro, getting his Shikai after all this time, throughout the entire series, 10 plus years, longer than that really, but after all this time, this man finally gets at least his Shikai, and he wreaks havoc. We ain't seen nothing yet with him. I'll just say that now. And then our boy Ichigo pulls up and just shows the complete and utter difference between him and everyone else at this point after that training, which we will see over the course of the rest of our show. We will see snippets of it. They'll do a One Piece and they'll flash back to it constantly, like Luffy's training with Rayleigh. But yeah, guys, we're in for some really, really interesting stuff coming next week, actually. So I hope you're excited. And if you are, let me know down in the comments what you're excited for. So until next time, guys, I hope you guys have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day, and I will see you guys next time. Deuces.